Well, welcome to this afternoon's session on turning big data into big revenue. Well done all of you for actually coming out to what we think might have been the graveyard slot on a Wednesday afternoon. I am Mike Dix from Descience Limited. I'm a freelance writer and lazy digital person, largely. My role is to introduce these wonderful guys who are going to explain what big data is and what's big about it and what's clever about it, hopefully, as well. So I'd like to start with, I'm going to try this in the pronunciation that you've just taught me, but Jeroen. Okay, I could work in Holland for a while, I imagine. Jeroen Doucet of ExMachina. He's a digital strategist working on second screen strategies for broadcasters. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I need to get my flipper. I think it's over here. Thank you all for coming. I'm always wondering what types of people come to these events. I mean, sometimes I've been there myself as well. How many of you are broadcasters? Could you raise your hands? Okay, that's about a quarter broadcasters. Producers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25%. Advertisers or people supplying to advertisers? Catering to advertisers, 1, 2, 3, yeah, okay. Distributors, operators? Even a couple of those. Good, nice mix of the industry then. This is typically the types of clients we work for. I'm from ExMachina, and I would like to share with you today our perspective on big data. We mostly do second screen and social TV applications, and we're increasingly seeing that data is becoming a vital part of any second screen or social TV strategy. The thing with television is obviously it has always been big data. I mean, if you take this is a chart from a Champions League play between Chelsea and Manchester, Chelsea and Munich, and in the Netherlands alone, which if you don't know it by heart has about 16 million inhabitants, we had already 3.4 million people watching. And actually, we can if you have access to the right systems, you can have a minute by minute, or actually second by second idea of how many people are watching. So this is sort of 3 million, this information gives you the information that you got 3 million people, 3.5 million people nearly watching a television. So that's a big audience. I mean, if you would accumulate all their data, that is already big data. The challenges only start when we introduce a second screen, because then people start to interact and talk back to you. And then it's not just from 1 point to 3.4 million people sending out information, but it's increasingly people talking back. And this is actually a stat from one of this comes out of our systems. We can monitor from second to second how many people are interacting. And if you're interested, this is when there's a call to action on television to actually do something with your second screen, so you can see how well that works. But you got to imagine that you now have 40,000 data streams coming back to you. And actually, we have done projects where we have 500,000 streams coming back to you. And that's an operational and a technical challenge. I mean, we got calls from a network operating center in Germany that asked what the hell we were doing, causing 8% of the overall internet traffic at that given moment in Germany. So that's a quite operationally and technical challenge, which we master, but that also gives you an idea of sort of the enormity of it all. The thing is, what can you do with this data? What does it bring to you? And what we increasingly see is that this data is actually crucial in monetizing whatever you're doing on your second screen, and we believe will, over the course of time, be also increasingly important in monetizing what you're doing on your first screen. The challenge, however, with big data is that it's such an amount of data that you really need to know what you're looking for if you're ever going to find it. So just piling on all this data and hoping that it will bring you some sort of insight or value is not going to do it. You need to know what you're looking for, which is, and that's what we've been discussing here for the last days with broadcasters at our booth, is why you need a data strategy. You need to define on forehand what you want to know and how you're going to use it, so you can efficiently collect it. We believe that in monetizing, in going from data to revenues, there's a step in insights. The first is
You have on your data side, you have ratings, response, and engagement. This is just sort of metrics that you take out of your system. You have profiles, a social graph, which is basically your Facebook friends, and you have reactions. And these you can use to create insights as to program performance. How many people are watching my show? How many people are interacting with it? Marketing performance. How is the brand exposed? How are people engaging with the brand on the second screen? But also sales performance. I mean, a second screen is obviously an interactive device, so you can use it to generate sales and leads. And this then translates into revenues. Direct revenues, which are data that you may sell. Profiles, which you can use for direct marketing. Leads, sales, these are direct revenues. These are still relatively small. And may remain so for the coming for the next month, a year or year and a half. The big value is in increasing tune-in, creating advertising value, and waste reduction, making sure that the advertisement you send out reach the right people. And I will give you two examples. I've got a minute left, and I will jump through two examples from the projects that we've been doing to give you sort of an idea how we go from data to insights to monetization. The first one is an elections show we've done last year for the Dutch public broadcaster, or this is the commercial broadcaster actually. And we had a show there where people could vote for whom they thought would, which of the two contestants, Marc Rutte and Diederik Samson, would get the last 30 seconds of the debate on television. Huge success, 130,000 people actually voted. But what was, and thus, as you can see, Marc Rutte won, so he got the last 30 minutes, and this actually proved to be his starting point for the growth in the polls. But what surprised us most was that we asked them for their political preference, and then we found out that the numbers we were bringing in were more accurate than any of the polls. So we were the closest to the eventual elections outcomes. This may have been a coincidence, but this gives you a sort of idea of the value of the data that you're collecting and how that may be used. The second case, and I will go through this one quite quickly. I have 0 seconds left. You want me to stop, or you want me to? Yeah, disclose it. Talpa and RTL and Endemol, Talpa and RTL and Vodafone have built this great app for the voice. And actually, this was quite a significant investment in developing the app. So the people at Vodafone asked themselves, how are we going to justify it? And it turned out that the people who had actually used the app had such a significant increase in Net Promoter Score, which is for marketing organizations about the most relevant metric for loyalty, that they could justify the entire investment on the app just based on the increase in Net Promoter Score with the 650,000 people that use the app. So that's another idea of how the data that you're generating can be instrumental in improving the value of second screen.
Thank you. Just very quickly, the voice app, is that something that you're making available in other markets for that show? Does that?
We're depending there on how Talpa sells the show, and if they want, and if the actual broadcaster wants to take the app that we have developed. Some broadcasters prefer to develop their own apps or have preferred companies that they do it with. But we have rolled out in the last season of The Voice in 4 territories, and that may very well increase next year.
Okay. I'd like to hand over to Marc Hernandez from Trendrr. 2 R's on the end. Make sure you check that, otherwise you'll find yourself in a new LinkedIn website I discovered when I was researching. And you're going to talk about the creation and collection, I think, of statistics around shows.
Absolutely. I'm going to take like my 5 minutes and not more. I hope so. Just Jeroen, I hope I say it well, showed us how TV is really the source of big data. I want just quickly in a minute to show you how we can treat this big data. That's what we are doing at Trendrr. And I'm connected there. I'm connected live to our US website. I'm sorry, I thought someone was talking. To our US website, where you can see the top 10 of the show for the cable shows and the regular shows. To show you a concrete example, I'm going to go in the first one on cable today, which is a Bad Girls Club. I don't know exactly what is it. on Oxygen. And I'm going to go into detail of this data. All this data provide from social network. We're working, of course, with Twitter, which is the biggest one in the world, as you know. But also we are working with Facebook, who is really now working hard to come back on this market. And we are working also with Vigil or with GetGlue, and we can also connect our tools to all your application, to the dedicated application like the one you Jeroen just showed us on The Voice. So if I go in the data of this show, then I can see, for example, you've got the on-air activity, which is 88,000 something. You've got the daily activity on the global 24-hour around the show. And you've got the uniques, exactly 52,000 people tweeted or posted something once during the show. And the frequency of their interaction with the show is 1.9. So we can really do the clear measurement of who is engaged in the show and how they are. Also, we can show, of course, the activity graph, so you can compare with your previous weeks, for example, if it's a regular show. We can do the graph the way you want. We can do a minute-by-minute show or something like that. You find your history in a different way if you want. Everything you can export to the marketing department, to the advertisement department, to who you are. You find the source of your data. You find the first analysis, the rough analysis of your data. When I say rough, this is absolutely true and clear, but this is just the main things of the analysis. You've got the sentiment. Is it a positive, a neutral, or negative conversation around your show? Is it more female conversation or a male conversation? Where do people send their message from? Is that from BlackBerry, from Android, from Apple? You can really find exactly whatever you want. And you can go really deeper also in the conversation by showing the topics, the hashtag, etc., where the people are tweeting from. Here you have the design market areas. You can find your Twitter influencers. You can really find all data you need on your conversation, the conversation regarding your show, your channel, or whatever. If you have questions, I think it's after, but I hope it's clear. I just have 2 more minutes now, I see. To show you the PowerPoint, if I can have it. Thank you. And somebody steal me just to explain you quickly exactly what we are doing with the data. First, I'm going to go to the direct thing. You know these things. You know how people are now reacting in front of the TV. They were passive, they are now what we call persistent. It means engage, as we just saw. And they're going to go perceptive. We're going to go in a very interactive relation with the viewership. What we do with all this conversation, there is the event that create conversation. And what we do is we can analysis and give this analysis, give these metrics, give these figures to the people who need to get them. We are usually dealing with the web teams in the broadcasting, but quite quickly after we start working with the production team and also the marketing team, and everybody is really very interesting, of course, of this data. We take all the data from wherever we want, and we are able to send them to whoever need those data. Why is this important? And just to get after the big data, to get to the big revenues in 1 minute, because we are now able to deliver exact metrics of on what is happening on social media regarding a show, regarding a character, regarding a celebrity. We can say exactly what people are thinking minute by minute. We can quantify this. And this is, of course, the first step to transfer this data to revenue, to be able to give the people who are investing money the good information. That's what exactly we are working on at Trendrr now. This is, I think, all a new technology we are talking here. But at Trendrr, we already developed what we call the GEP, which is the gross rating point for the advertisement, and we worked about the engage point. We worked to give the investors the exact return on investment and the exact data, where they put money, why they put money there, and what's happening to their money. And we've got like that. I think I'm sure we can detail that in the second part. So I'm going to stop that. But we are able now really to create exactly the sources and the reason why revenues will come from this data. So I'm sure we're gonna do that after and maybe see some case studies later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So over to Owen Hanks from YuMe. Luckily I can pronounce Owen, I'm okay.
Is that on? Thanks very much. I'm Owen Hanks from YuMe. I'm the General Manager for Europe. So I think big data is sometimes a little bit of a difficult subject to understand, primarily because what do you do with the data? So we at YuMe are a digital video advertising solutions provider, and we provide brand results and digital media revenues to publishers of content on any digital platform. So we have brand advertisers who come to us to spend their money, and then we distribute that across multiple platforms, whether that be PC, smartphone, tablet, or any connected device in terms of a connected TV or a games console. And I think you've all seen that the digital screen fragmentation, so I'm not going to dwell on that, but the reality is delivering an advertiser's message to the right place at the right time on the right platform is actually the most important key learnings of the last 3 years, and YuMe's a 10-year-old company. And in order to better monetize content, we developed something that we call PQI, which is a placement quality index, and this could get really geeky and really nerdy, and I hope not to do that. But the reality is that whether you're a content creator who've delivered your rights to a broadcaster on a digital platform, or you own the digital platform yourself, it's really important in order to drive consistent advertising revenues to be able to know full well that the advertiser is happy with the way their brand is being perceived around your content. So we developed PQI, and it's as all West Coast US companies, it's an algorithmic base, and that's where the tech piece will stop. But it looks at a number of things. It really depends on the platform that you're delivering the brand onto. It depends on then a number of performance metrics, and we look at those in terms of the interaction rate, the video completion rate for the brand, the player size, so that's how large the actual ad and your content appears on the screen, the location of the player. The web has been the Wild West for many years, and lots of times you can hear that there's something going on the screen, but actually you can't see it because it's below the fold, or it happened on some other page that you've since closed down. Well, we kind of stopped that. That's the old way. It's not the way that a brand advertiser will continue to repeat purchase. And then the content and context relevancy. So if you're delivering on a tablet, how are people consuming on a tablet different to a PC, and different again to a smartphone or a connected TV, smart TV device. And then brand safety, which is becoming increasingly more important as brands are regulated not only by the advertising regulations, but by many of their own regulatory bodies within the advertising sectors that they compete in. And I think, so we pull all those things together, and we just develop a score. It's very simple, a 0 to 10 score, and that relates back to the publisher, broadcaster, whoever's delivering the content. And that was a pretty hard message for us a year ago. We were telling some of the world's largest publishers that they were not performing very well from a brand efficiency and effectiveness standpoint. But they soon realised that the better they performed on that score, the more money they would receive from brands, and the more repeat campaigns they would receive, and the more regularity of those campaigns and extra campaigns from within a brand's product suite as well. So it became a very quickly self-fulfilling prophecy. And the PQI basically relates to all of those metrics. It puts it into a machine and it spits out a number, just one number. And we provide that number back to the publisher and the broadcaster, whatever the digital content owner may be. And we give them reasons and also advice on how to improve that score. And that means that we can not only sustain advertising CPMs, but we've actually increased them. And we've increased them because by doing this PQI, and it's delivered back to us by a bunch of software development pieces of technology. By doing this, we've actually increased brand lift on digital campaigns for some of the world's largest. We work with all of the world's top 100 brand advertisers and many more. We've increased completion rates, lift of 90%, and we've actually included interaction rates, 215% lift from prior to us having the PQI score. So it's very significant. And that's really it, is that we do the hard work. It's very difficult for broadcasters, content owners to know what to do with that data. So we do it for you, because actually the biggest question that I get asked is, how do I make more money? Well, we'll do the hard work and the lifting in order to do that, and I think that gets beyond what do I do with someone's name and address and the fact that they watch my sports content or my entertainment content or my factual content. But actually, how do I deliver more money back so that you can commission more, create more, and drive that perpetual circle? That's it. Thank you.
So, I guess what I'm hearing from all of you, there's interesting different measurement techniques going on to look at the social space around television programs. We have more data, and therefore big data, around TV than we've ever had before. One thing in the past, you had Nielsen figures or Barb figures, you had a single agreed measurement system that both the advertisers and the broadcasters agreed upon. And revenues were based on those, and still are based on those numbers. Now we seem to have a number of different models, PQIs and Trendrr and second syncs and your apps directly. We have a lot of data. Is it fragmented? Do we need to start looking for a unifying way that we can all agree it's this number and that says it's successful? Is that? Obviously you want it to be PQI and you want it to be Trendrr, but...
Well, actually, we utilise PQI for the aid of the people that we work with, and as a support mechanic for them. So we're fully in favour. In fact, we work with Nielsen globally now because Nielsen have started to produce something that they call share shift, which we're actually a big advocate of, which is how do consumers, how are they measured between the different devices they're on, whether that be the broadcast from the normal Nielsen data, and Nielsen are now working with Barb in the UK to create that. Obviously, they own the panel in the US. They work with GfK in Germany to be able to do that. So it's a single source piece of data which actually allows us to look at consumption of the content on any screen, and that in turn allows us to go to the advertisers and suggest that actually shifting revenues doesn't necessarily mean taking money away from TV. It means moving revenues to where the consumer is at the right given time. And actually, that's a very supportive message to broadcasters, and we work with many of them in multiple countries, because where the death bell of TV has been sounded for however many years, it's a matter of fiction. More people are watching TV in most countries than ever before, but actually they're starting to watch TV just on different devices. So broadcasters are supportive of that because they can not only sustain those revenues but increase them, as they have done in many of European and the US markets. But with the added aid of support like the PQI system, it means that they can understand a little more added to that Nielsen, so they can sustain CPMs and CPTs or whatever it is.
And Marc, are you finding that getting the broadcasters and advertisers to agree on your Trendrr statistics or the KPIs that they choose from the performance indicators?
I think the unique format, the unique answer to the investors is the big thing for the next months. I mean, we have to provide the brands something clear. We have to talk about the same thing, which is sometimes it's the case sometimes, but sometimes it's not. So we exactly know what we need to know exactly what we're talking about. You know what? It reminds me. In France, it was like, I don't know, I'm speaking there about 15 years ago, where there were the first metrics for TV ratings. I mean, we had different companies. There were different ways to find the right metrics. And finally, after a few years, we found the right things. And now there is only one company. I don't know if there's going to be one company in the future regarding social TV, but they're going to be that sure, one metrics. Because, I mean, the people who are buying, who are putting money on second screen around social TV, they need to get something clear for their return on investment. So I think that's the next step. It's exactly that.
And I mean, one question that I think comes from both of you before I move on to the strategy side. Are we monitoring the noise around a TV show? And how, are these just the people making the most noise? And very often most TV producers or broadcasters will know that the people that make the most noise about their TV show quite often are complaining about it. Is that?
I would answer that noise, I know there are some broadcasters there, sorry. Noise is already the past. Broadcaster for the communication, they are using the noise. I mean, they say, oh, we did like 3 million tweets around the show, that's huge. Okay, but were they positive, were they negative, were they from 2 people who tweeted 1 million each time, or were there 1 million people tweeting one time to say it's good? So that's very different, and that's the thing.
And we need to the
sentiment. We've got so many metrics to measure exactly the engagement of the people, and as you mentioned, the engagement is the real thing. I mean, what people think, do they come back? Do they have a good sentiment around the show, around the application, around the second screen, around all the things happening? That's the thing we need to deliver.
And to some extent, that sort of feels like, and I know commissioning editors in the UK that monitor their Twitter feed for a show that they've just put out, hoping that, do you love me? Do you love me? Yes, you love me. I'll commission you again tomorrow. That's why you should create fake Twitter accounts for your show, I'm sure, basically. But I know that you can find a hole in that. In terms of us monitoring and researching what the audience is saying and doing, and we're collecting this large amount of data now. Taking it to monetization means you've got to know what you're going to do with that data, rather than just changing the show or changing the broadcast slot or improving things. Is the data valuable in some way?
I think the data is valuable in many ways, but you really need to know what you're looking for if you're ever going to find it. So you need to think about what you're going to find, and that's also, I think, referring to your earlier question about a single currency for digital, that we have fragmentation right now in currencies. I think that's a reflection of the fact that actually advertisers, we all think that they need reach. They don't need reach. They want you to like their brand more and sell more. Reach is not an end, it's a mean. And I think the good thing now is that you can develop metrics and currencies that are closer to the objectives of the advertisers or the programmers, and thus learn better from the data than we were able to learn before. Okay. And that creates a lot of opportunity, but it complicates the world. Yes, it does.
Can I just jump? So I think part of that is correct. So I'm usually on panels to try and disagree with the other panelists, but I think part of that is correct. But I think that actually brand advertisers do need reach. So the reality is that, and you can pick any brand around the world. Coca-Cola can't make a new product and always just rely on search, SEO to deliver that product. They need that content. They need the content to be delivered around the products and the content that you make. So if I'm launching a new derivative of a brand, or if I'm Ford and I'm launching a new car, I need that TV mechanic. I need to show you what it looks like to make you brand aware. And then all of my other mechanics fit into place. So I do believe that reach is still hugely powerful. And the fact that we talk about this one mechanic, one measurement, it doesn't matter whether it's on a TV screen. It doesn't matter whether it's on a PC screen or on a smart TV. Or actually, the truth is that the increasing amount of consumption that we see in 16 to 24 comes from a games console. Xbox and PlayStation are absolutely key drivers for people's content and for advertising awareness. And I think, and that provides huge reach for that audience.
Well, if I may respond, I agree with you that reach is still of vital importance, but I think that reach is also, reach that we measure right now is reach that we measure through the bar boxes. And and from what I hear from advertisers is that the same reach is giving them less results right now. So the quality of the reach is going down, and I think that's something that we should be concerned about, and where you need to orchestrate your media and make sure that you think about not your reach in huge clumps of millions of viewers, but you need to think of how the reach will enable you to achieve your objectives.
But at this stage, would it be fair to say we're at the kind of beginning of a process of we now have ways to collect all of this data, we're trying to understand what that tells us and how to make that specific, and then the monetization is the next phase of this. I know you guys are all doing well from this, but from producers and broadcasters' perspectives, where do we go next?
I think
and
one
just
thing,
as a leave, because we're running on time, if you could leave a leave behind for these guys on what they should be doing this year as a broadcaster or a producer, obviously working with you guys. But
no, I was actually going to say is you need to decide whether you actually need the data. I think that's a hugely important piece, is that I make a very similar, so Tesco's is a large retailer in the UK and significant in the US now, and they sell Heinz. Everyone knows what a Heinz baked bean is, which is a brand that we've all been used to. I try and place the broadcaster and the distribution platform in the Heinz and the Tesco's analogy. Tesco's is the distribution. It's the satellite company, the cable company that's distributing, and therefore I want messages from that brand. I want messages to come to me that tell me how do I get better subscriptions, better packages, and all those things. But do I really need to hear from Heinz baked beans every day? And that's the channel. So be careful about what data it is you really want. Data to create more programming is a very, very powerful tool, but not collating data just to keep on sending out the wrong message to the wrong audience. I don't want a Heinz baked beans story every day, and I don't necessarily want one from the broadcaster either.
or the Viagra advert.
Thank you.
Mark, what would you?
I just keep the idea that we are truly at the beginning of a new movement, but it goes quick. I mean, really, we manage now. We really manage, and it is good. It's new technology that is really good. Like for the last year, I would say, or the last 2 years maximum. And the next step now is how we can do revenue from that. I mean, how you can do revenue from that. And my guess is that we need to go forward. We need to move forward, but we need to move forward together. But there are so much possibilities to do data from that. First of all, I think it's you mentioned that, but you can avoid to waste money in stupid things because you got so much answer there already, and there are so much metrics you can use and so much new places you can use to touch the people who are really engaged around your program or around the place where you're doing communication with your brand. And I'm just taking a concrete example because maybe that's the things we need now. For example, I don't know, we can, on a TV show, we can really give the brand who is partner of a TV show the listing of all the people who were the most engaged around the show, and the day after they can just send 10% discount on Twitter or something like that for them. That's something very concrete, and of course there are so much more we can do. So we are here to talk about that with you if you want.
Jeroen, in a tweet, give them a leave behind. We have to be very quick.
Start with the data strategy right now.
Excellent. There you go. Can I take maybe one or two very quick questions? If there are any? Can you tell us who you are as well?
Give us an electric shock again. Stuart Dredge from MIPblog. All this big data is measuring people on Twitter and Facebook. How do you blend that with what you're measuring on people who aren't on these social networks? How are you blending this big data with data on the other viewers who aren't social?
Marc, I think.
Yeah. Sorry. We have a partnership with Twitter, for example, or with Facebook. So we have a direct access to the data. There are 2 companies in the world that are allowed to do that. There are going to be some changes. You know that Twitter bought a few months ago Bluefin Lab. I think they're going to use it in a bit different way, but and Trendrr is one of the other official partner for Twitter. So we've got direct data with no limit. I see that TV tweet is here. That's cool. With no limit of data of how many tweets we can measure. We can go very deep in in the analysis. And Twitter, for example, is developing more and more tools for everyone to do his own analysis. And Facebook is really running, I don't know if it's the word, but is really running behind Twitter at the moment. I just saw that they're gonna do the hashtag also on Facebook soon. So now they're gonna come in this market because it's one of the biggest market. It's not a joke or an entertainment at the moment. Social TV, it's very something strong.
Okay, I'm afraid we've got to finish there. If there are other questions, all of the speakers will be out in the speaker area at the front of the auditorium. But we have another session to start in a few moments. So thank you very much.